everyone. Welcome to Aunty K's. This is Spill the Tarot Tea, and today we are going to spill the tarot tea with my friend Armida. And I am Aunty K. I am a tarot reader, a deck creator, and a tarot reviewer. And I am the creator of the Land Back Tarot. So, you know, we're in here for some political takes on tarot, as well as some everyday takes on tarot. And Armida, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you?
Yeah, for sure. I'm Armida. I am Chicana. My parents are both from what we call now Mexico, and they are, or at least I am, indigenous to Mexico, but I am my ties to my original culture is severed. So I don't have a direct connection. And we live on a farm in Eastern Ontario. And so we have, you know, some hobby farming stuff going on. I also homeschool the kids. We have 3 kids. And I like to test out patterns for designers. They make patterns. And in the fashion industry and in the pattern making industry, there's very little space for very big people. And so when a pattern designer creates the space for us, then I like to chip in and test their patterns. So because they don't, you know, like indie pattern makers, they can't pay for models. They can't pay for, you know, all these things that like the big pattern makers, the big 5, Vogue and, you know, Butterick and all these people, they pay for all their testers. They pay for all of their models. So I go in and I pattern test for my big body. And I appreciate that they make the patterns. I wish more pattern makers would do it. And so I try my best to represent the fat community there and advocate for fat liberation that way.
That is amazing. You're doing for diverse body sizes in sewing what we're doing at Indie Deck Review for diverse decks. That's pretty awesome. How can pattern designers, plus size pattern designers, get a hold of you if they'd like you to test out their patterns?
My all my socials are my first and last name. So Armida one. So that's Instagram and Facebook is mostly where I post stuff on. I do have a TikTok as well, and I have a Twitter, but I don't really post stuff there. I just consume the content there. But I do have, and it's all Armida one throughout the whole. I'm very uncreative when it comes to social handles.
Excellent. Well, that also makes it really easy to find you and get a hold of you. But I will post them in the description box as well as on the screen here. So, tea. What is in your tea today? What are you drinking?
I'm drinking Jamaica. So it's hibiscus tea, and I grew up drinking it cold, but I forgot to brew it last night. So I just put a bunch of ice in it. It's a hot day today.
Yeah, it's a hot day too up here. Armida and I don't live very far apart, about an hour and a half, and it's been a cool summer. So I'm in a short sundress for like the first time in about 5 weeks.
That's right.
Soaking it in. Drinking a hot tea over here. I have a raspberry tea. I don't know if I can show it because I've been drinking it. It's such a beautiful, like, deep raspberry color. It's not a leaf tea, it's a berry tea.
Nice.
And I added some white sugar to my very sweet tea.
Mine has a little bit of honey.
I've had hibiscus tea a few times. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it really would be nice cold on a day like today.
I love it.
All right. So hot takes. Armida, do you have a hot take for us on tarot?
I do. So I've been exploring my gender identity lately, and gender nonconformity particularly. So I've been devouring any Spotify interview that I can with Alock, who's a Indian American non-binary trans non-binary activist and poet and artist and just an all-around amazing person. And they've been talking about alchemy a lot. And from when I started tarot, I was always fascinated by the magician. And the magician, you know, like I always felt was kind of like this, it was kind of a weird character for me. But over time, I started to learn that it's, you know, a figure who has all of the material needs that they need to manifest whatever they want to manifest, right? So I always took it as this figure who has all of their material magical needs on hand, and they can create and manifest anything that they want. So it was always very physical for me. And then slowly I started learning about its connection, the magician's connection to alchemy. But I still didn't really grasp that concept. And so lately I've been hearing these conversations that Alock has with various different people, and they talk about alchemy a lot. And for them, it's an alchemy of turning negativity and turning stereotypes and turning oppressions and all the things that colonization has brought to us, you know, the majority of the world's population, into love and into compassion and into liberation, right? So it's the type of alchemy that a magician, having all of their ingredients, physical or spiritual, on hand to be able to do that, right? And also the alchemy of turning our own, like we have turned against ourselves, right? Colonization has taught us to turn against ourselves, and that is not a natural human condition. It is not in our interest to be against ourselves, but colonization taught us that, right? So we hate our bodies, we hate our accents, we hate our skin color, we hate our fatness, we hate our skinniness, we hate everything that we can conceptualize as being too much or too little or not enough, or, you know, the wrong shape or whatever, right? We hate our personalities, we hate everything, right? And so in this process of alchemy, you take all of that self-hatred and you turn it into love, right? So instead of saying, I hate my big ass or I hate my fat stomach, I'm going to say, I love my fat stomach, and I'm going to look at it in the mirror and like love it and draw hearts on it and, you know, make it beautiful, right? Because it is beautiful, because it's what carries the spiritual being of me, right?
Can I interject? This is such like a Glamour Spell alchemy magician moment. And I love what you said about the mirror, because when I was a kid, I was 13, and, you know, I thought I was this ugly, homely kid because that's what I heard from my adopted family all the time. And I sat down in the mirror, willing myself, spelling myself to like see my own beauty. And then like I did. Yeah. And I've come to learn that like that is something we really truly have the power to do. And it's truly magical, and it truly is a glamour spell, because like that confidence and love and beauty, appreciation of beauty of ourselves, like really does shine. People really do see it. And when I was a kid, I acted, and I always got these roles as orphans, which fed to me the idea that I looked homely. And it was, you know, in my adult life, it was pointed out to me by another adult. They probably just saw how desperate and sad and lonely you were.
Yeah.
And that made you look like an orphan. And,
Right.
you know, when I did that spell on myself in the mirror as a child, like it changed things. People saw me and reacted to me as an attractive person. But yeah, so I'm loving all of this, and I love it as an interpretation that non-binary and gender fluid people can use this alchemy. I do think, you know, of two-spirited people as being magicians, from a cultural perspective, we did see them with these gifts. And this is like one of my favorite takes. And you brought it up a couple days ago, and I was like, you have to talk about this. And I'm so excited we're talking about it, because it is an amazing take. Sorry, if there's more you want to say, and carry on.
And it's incredible, right? Because when we do finally give ourselves that love, have an innate desire for love, right?
Thank you. Mine is a little less hot than Armida's. So my hot take is the 9 of Cups. And depending on the reader, both the 7 of Cups and the 9 of Cups are called the wish card, depending on the reader. The 7 is like where we are wishing and we don't know. And the 9, you know, is when our wishes are fulfilled. And, you know, and that definition is why I personally consider the 7 of Cups the wish card. The 9s are about awareness. And the 9 of Cups is about emotional responsibility. And, you know, as an Indigenous, which is a form of Indigenous anarchy, I believe that responsibility and freedom are really, really strongly tied together. And so it's when it's when awareness and a realization and an enactment of emotional responsibility that we find the freedom to, you know, really turn things around for ourselves and find that fulfillment. And I think we experience this 9 of Cups, this emotional responsibility and awareness and fulfillment when we sort of begin it. So I sort of see the 9 of Cups as a long thing. Like when you start to really see that, like, you know, this emotional responsibility to your hopes and your dreams and your desires, you know, played out, you start to feel it then. That's when you feel that wish fulfillment, you know, before the salmon's done drying. But the process of getting it laid out and prepped, you feel it then, because like, you know where you're going. Anyway, that's my hot take on that card.
And it relates very much to the magician, right? Because we have to have that awareness, right, to be able to come to the ability to love yourself, and not in like this sort of like superficial way that I've been loving myself, and that I thought was self-love, for the last like 10 years, right? Like the way that in non-binary, like what I've been learning about it is that self-love is about like engaging in an awareness that we're constantly creating ourselves, right? Like we're constantly changing and recreating and manifesting ourselves, and all of our ideas of, or everything that is real in the world today was one day an idea, right? So to be aware of that then gives us the motivation and impetus to imagine a world where self-love exists, and where the love of everybody and everything around us, not just human, but you know, our animal brothers and sisters, and our plant siblings, and our water siblings, right? Like we imagine all of it as our family, and then it is, right?
It was actually an inspiration for a post I did, this morning, as in the morning that we're recording. I had this idea. It's like, you know what? I greet the day and in the spirits outside every morning, and I'm going to do a part of it where it's recorded and share it with other people. Because that like small act is like a really big thing, and it can really set that whole tone for the day, where you feel like I'm connected to all these relatives around me today. So it's like, you know what, this seems so small, but I want to share it. And that was my motivation.
And that intent creates awareness, right? Because then you become more aware of your intentions as well.
Yeah.
I feel like for myself, I've mostly lived unaware of my intentions, right?
So Armida, can you talk to us about your pet spiritual Karen, Peeve? How has spiritual Karen impacted your spiritual journey as a non-binary Chicano Indigenous fat tarot reader?
If spiritual Karen, in many occasions, and spiritual Kevin have told me in not so many words that that centering the parts of me that are marginalized is I'm devaluing my spirituality or my divinity by focusing on these negative things, right? Where in fact my divinity comes from these things, right? And so they've gaslit me into believing like for a long time I believe that I must be wrong for focusing on these issues, on these marginalizations, and that I should be able to transcend these things, and I should, but not in the way that they want me to, right? I should be able to love those things about myself. I should be able to see the creativity in those things about myself, in my fatness, in my brownness, in my colonized indigenousness, in my non-binary. I should be able to see the potential for divinity in all of that, right? Uh-huh. But instead they gaslight me and tell me that I'm wrong for bringing those things up, and really it's a threat to them, right? They are afraid that what I'm doing is shining a light on their participation in my marginalization, right? And I absolutely am.
You are.
But that's their responsibility to
Mhm.
take care of that, right? To take care of the, because gaslighting me into believing that it's me and I'm wrong, it's only going to further take them away from their own divinity, right? But what
I
it's
had
the
this.
impact that it's had
Sorry.
on me is that it kept me from wanting to learn the tarot, right? Like I started to probably about 3-4 years ago or so. I think more like 4 years ago, I started to, and then I just couldn't get into it because, you know, the cards were all, even the more semi-diverse cards, they were all hetero, they were all thin, they were all like these models of beauty. Even if they had dark skin, they were still these models of beauty that come standard in our culture, right? In this Western culture, they were not, you know, like this deck, you know, has people who are beautiful in gender non-conforming ways, right? And gender conforming ways too.
What tarot is it?
Tarot, Fifth Spirit Tarot.
Nice.
It was created by Charlie Claire Fergus, and they're a non-binary person. You know, like here's somebody who's had top surgery.
Nice.
Right, and there's
nice. This is awesome.
There's images of fat people, and there's images of, like, you know, this is like the cholas and cholos that I grew up around, right? And, you know, here's
nice. I've had the same experience where when I say I want, I request, I demand inclusion in my tarot decks, I've been told, if you can't see yourself in a cis white het deck full of your oppressors and their point of view, it's because you're not divine enough. And I, as a white cis het person, am so divine that I can totally see myself in every tarot card. It's like, so it's because you are in every fucking tarot card.
Yeah.
Yes, their ability to transcend nothing is so much superior than our inability to transcend the, you know, mountain of the iceberg of colonialism. And yeah, I have been told that directly when I've said, you know, I have a real problem seeing anything positive in the Hierophant. I've been told, well, that's because you're not divine enough. It's like, no, it's because I actually know and understand from lived experience the role of that Hierophant, and everything you're telling me is good about the Hierophant. The Hierophant has told me is good about him too, and it's not. It's just a lie. It's a lie that controls us. So I don't see it. You're not divine enough. If I don't see justice in a positive way, I'm not divine enough. And you're right. It is gaslighting. And it has been a struggle with me in tarot also. And I think it's a common struggle. And our inability to see ourselves in white people actually is good. It's a good thing when we can't see ourselves in them, because they've told us we had better see ourselves in them.
Right.
Just like they think they see themselves in their white God, we're supposed to see ourselves in them. So we aim to achieve, you know, an inferior version of them. And you know what? I think actually it's a powerful thing when we say, yeah, no, I can't see myself in there. I actually worry, and it breaks my heart when I meet, Indigenous readers who are like, I have no problem seeing myself in an all white deck. It's like, ouch.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
that should be a problem.
Yeah.
It should be a
It's
problem if we
only
see
right way
ourselves in
for
them.
us to be in these images. The only right way to be ourselves in this image is wrong, right? Like what we're being presented with means that we are wrong, right? We are the wrong color, we are the wrong size, we are the wrong gender, we are the wrong everything, right? And for people who say that you're just not on the same level of me, it's like because I'm far beyond your level, right? Like I love myself and I love my image and I love my roles and my darkness and my everything, right? And so I want to see that reflected in my practice, right? Because
yes,
if I hated myself, I'd be right there with you, right? And when I saw myself slipping into that, because I saw myself slipping into that mentality of like, okay, I am wrong. Okay, I stopped, right? Like I said, I'm not going to engage in this, right? And so I didn't read tarot for probably like a year and a half, 2 years. I didn't start up again until I met you, and we started doing the tarot group chats together. And then I was like, yeah, that's right. I wasn't wrong. Right?
Yeah. It's it's a huge, I wonder how many more non-binary, transgender fluid, two-spirit diviners we would have if they weren't told you're less divine because you can't see yourself as cis like me. How many more Black, brown, Indigenous diviners would we have if they weren't told you're not all that divine if you can't see yourself in white images of me? How many more would we have if they weren't told this? And I think this is going to be a common theme, because I think probably almost all of us can name a way that spiritual Karen and Kevin kept us out of some aspect of the spiritual community. Like,
that's right.
I'd have joined the broader spiritual community sooner if I had met somebody other than spiritual Karen and Kevin, like over and over and over and over again. We are at the hit the deck portion of the day. What are you just over in tarot?
I got a deck, and I've heard this and be an issue for some decks, and I've never until now experienced that issue. But there's this deck, and I don't notice like little things right away. Like it takes me a while to notice them. And one time I was shuffling this deck, and I happened to get like a little stack of like half a dozen cards together that were all slightly smaller than the rest of the deck, right? So it's like this, like, I don't know, the way they cut it or something, it was just off. And then I started looking through the deck more, and this deck has like a black border around it. and some of the border is like super thick and some of it's super thin, and it's just like all just mishappened, right? So it didn't bother me at first because I didn't notice it. And then I was like, this is really weird. So I'm over these like mishappened, you know, decks that are at full price.
Yeah, there is definitely kind of like two main qualities of decks. Does having the cards be different sizes, does that affect how you shuffle them?
No, it didn't. It never did. Like I always ruffle shuffle. Like I ruffle shuffle 3 times for whatever reason, and then I kind of do this kind of thing to see what card either pops out or stands out. And then I pick the card that stands out, right? Because there's always one that's just slightly higher than the other ones when I do that.
But
yeah.
Yeah, but it might mean you end up pulling the smaller cards less.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like they get hidden, right? They get hidden in between all the bigger ones.
Yeah, because like sometimes I take jumpers, but sometimes I do the same thing. I overhand and see what's sticking out and pull those. So my hit the deck, the thing I'm over, we all have different tastes in cardstock. I accept that. But can we just not put 350 and higher GSM with matte? Can you choose, creators, one or the other if you really like both? You know, if it's going to be 350 and higher and hard to rifle shuffle, give it some slip so we can overhand it. And if it's going to be matte and it's not going to have slide, make it like a bit thinner so we can like rifle shuffle it. That's not over it.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. You can love both, like, but maybe not together.
Not
Choose one. Are you ready for 60-second tarot, where we are each going to draw a card and the other one has to draw it in 60 seconds. We will be doing it at the same time. So grab your deck. I'm grabbing a deck. I'll pull a card for you to draw. You pull a card for me to draw. So before drawing, let's see what we get. Ooh, you got a jumper. All right, for you, I pulled the sun. So you don't have to draw this sun card. You have to draw Armida's interpretation of the sun. You can choose any tarot system you want, or you can do Armida's own unique tarot system if you desire, but you are going to have the sun. What did I get?
Okay. You got Temperance.
Temperance. All right. I have Temperance. All right. What are you going to use for your art medium?
I have just like a piece of drawing paper that I folded because I draw small. And I have these like gel pens.
Ooh, nice. Oh, they move quickly too, which is awesome.
Yeah, they're glitter gel pens.
That's going to be great for the sun.
I know, right?
Yeah. I have some folded art paper, which I folded because last time I traced around the Next World Tarot for my like template, and that was a big space to color in 60 seconds.
And go. It rang.
All right. Whew, I'm kind of impressed with myself this time. Do you want to go first or second?
I'll go first because
Okay.
I'm not at all impressed with myself. I try to make like a sun with a mountain range in the foreground, and kind of like the sun sitting between the mountains kind of looks like it's being supported by the mountains, because
yes,
I see the sun always as being like this symbol of encouragement and support and love and, you know, giving. But I feel like the sun also needs support as well, right?
Yeah, it's something we often can forget about in sun card moments is our need for support. It's definitely the side where, you know, it's the place where we might burn out, for sure.
That's right.
That's a great interpretation. So going smaller and dropping the charcoal pencils just for straight up pastels paid off. I was able to color in really quickly. So my Temperance, her hair is also like the water, and her hands are like the cups, and her eyes are closed, and there's some fish in her hair. And so it's really more an artsy interpretation of Temperance.
Temperance,
yeah.
I'll be honest, is a card that I don't know well.
I think that's because I'm going to blame Spiritual Karen again. Spiritual Karen's like, find peace and balance and da-da-da-da-da. But like, Temperance, you know, comes in a time where everything's really tumultuous. And, you know, it's churning like the waters do. And it like waters they're moving. Balancing waters, getting them to flow from one cup to another is like a pretty impossible task. And in Temperance moments, you know, we need Temperance in these moments that are tumultuous and feel impossible. And when, you know, Spiritual Karen tells us that, you know, it's balance and makes it this like, card, it's like so unattainable. You know, and it's not really, it's easy to find balance in those moments. I can find balance in those moments. You can find balance in those moments, but you aren't thinking about Temperance then.
Right.
You know?
And for sure. Yeah, like Temperance, and I've looked up the word temperance in the dictionary several times, and I look at the card. It's not a card I get often or ever. Like I don't think I've ever gotten it. So it's but I see now that your interpretation of like, oh, let's just hold hands and forget our differences when those differences are like killing me, right? Like I see now how that's unrelatable, and why I have such a hard time with even just the word itself. Not even the card, not even as a part of the journey, right? And I haven't read the definition in a long time, but it's always been triggering when I do.
I think Christianity has had a huge impact on how we interpret Temperance.
Yeah.
And that that's going to be translated into the dictionary and stuff like that. It's one of those things where you're going to want to go back to root words. Thank you very much, Armida, for joining me on Spill the Tarot Tea. This was a lot of fun. This was a pilot episode, but I feel like there's a really strong chance people are going to see it and help kick off this new series that I'm going to do on Aunty K's Tarot on YouTube. And again, folks, if you are a seamstress and you are creating patterns, check out Armida as a tester. And if you're looking for patterns for plus size bodies that are fashionable and look good, and you're going to feel really confident in, also check out Armida for that.
Let me know.
And we are going to have a picture or two of some things to display here while we're talking about it all. And see you later, folks. Please like, comment, and subscribe, which I should have said at the beginning for all the folks who didn't make it to the end. But if you didn't, you missed out on 60-second tarot. So that's your problem. And I will see you later, and have a great day, everybody. Thank you, Armida.
Bye.